one because we are live. And so I can see when he turns it on. But yeah, no, my cold open is that I went to go turn off the lights down here, and apparently at some point, I'm going to blame one of my kids, even though they can't reach it. Somebody broke the dimmer. So I can either be pitch black in the downstairs, or all the lights are on, one of the two. It's either, that's my cold open. That and just how amped I am about this trade deadline. So
let's go. Let's go. I'm looking for a way to make some sort of Kansas City Royals joke with like the fact that your lights were dimmed, or I don't know. There's going to be one in here, but also, is it a cold open if you're kind of warming up the open as you're jumping on the show? You just got to go right into it.
I know. Well, usually we do, but like Spencer just like hit the button. Open. So it's great.
That's an opener.
If you have stuck around this long, you are watching Dad's Bet Baseball. I am Adam Rosenberg. With me, as always, is my co-host CJ Buskey, aka Slippin' Jimmy. We have a awesome show today. I'm also most excited. There's a side narrative for one of our guests that I will reveal on air, which I think is just really funny. They're not like your real father or something, but you guys have another connection. I just think it's great. Okay. So trade deadline day, as I'm screaming at my house, I am pumped. I am amped. But I don't want to talk about it yet. The first thing I want to talk about is some bets for tomorrow, because we had nothing on the slate today.
You teased.
I know, Adam. I teased. Did win my DP bet. Getting closer.
Yeah, I did not win any of my bet. I tweeted actually a rare tweet from me this morning. I saw it. A lot of. I was like, "Is this an error?"
CJ tweeted. What happened? I thought you were. I literally thought you were
yeah, that didn't work well for me. So maybe actually building a bet to kick off tonight is in my best interest, because I need to make up what I lost at that 1 p.m. game. Also, that got delayed in the middle of the game. There was a trade in the middle of that game. Literally, the Yankees acquired one of the Rays players in the middle of the game. In Caballero. So, anyways, let's go make some money. Let's go try and find a bet here for tomorrow for folks.
Okay, you drive. You're gonna pump up. We're gonna do this on Hall of Fame bets. Oh yeah, you were like were you not?
Let's
ready?
Let's do it. I'm
okay.
Pulling up my screen.
We're gonna find one. So again, Hall of Fame bets, who has gone from future friend of the pod to friend of the pod to sponsor of the pod. Hall of Fame bets, hofapp.com. You can use code DADS and you get 50% off the first month. We love it because complete genuine fashion, it is a nice compliment to handicrafts. And I'm gonna go into I think we should find something. Let's find something for tomorrow. I kind of want to find. So it's raining in the Northeast, so that means that it's going to be humid in the Mid-Atlantic tomorrow.
Okay, are we looking for potentially something in the greater Metro DC area?
In Philadelphia, possibly. Who's starting tomorrow? Who's starting tomorrow for the Phillies?
Oh yeah, Philadelphia. Atlantic area, by the way.
Yeah,
that's still Northeast.
Okay. It counts. It's Mid-Atlantic. I count. It's Jack Flaherty against Ranger Suarez.
Let's do it. Unfortunately, Ranger Suarez, who still pitches for the Philadelphia Phillies, according.
So that one, that hot take didn't come through. That all those
that got cold. Unfortunately, yeah,
it's fine. Between that and the angry degenerate Zionists that get mad about my Dean Kramer cap, I don't know. It's like angry Ranger Suarez stands and angry degenerate Zionists do not like 60% of my baseball takes over the last.
Imagine if you were just, by the way, capping every pitcher based on their home country's political stance or views. Like if tomorrow you're like, hey, Ranger Suarez, I think he's Venezuelan, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. If he's like, hey, you know what, Venezuela, there's a lot of migrants that got in from Venezuela today. Trump's not happy. And you just start capping Ranger Suarez case, you know.
I do cap
sort of country of origin.
I do have a cap for that. It's my Brandon Nimmo cap, because if that were to happen, I would immediately go to Brandon Nimmo and just say Brandon Nimmo is going to have a big day. So, all right, I'm looking at the same thing you are, and I know what I'm going to see because I just know these pitchers really well.
Okay,
but and this is also tied to the cap I had the other day. So Suarez has, if you go to last 10 versus last 5, Suarez has regressed. So I was half right about everything that I'd been saying. Suarez has regressed. DeBundo talked about this. It's happened. But Flaherty, I'm going to tell you right now that I know I want probably first 5 over, because with a total that high, I kind of I like the Phillies going home. I like that juice, but I know I'm going to also, I haven't even gotten to prop wise, but if they have it up, if the line's up, I know I'm going to want Flaherty under outs. Flaherty has had problems on both sides of the ball for the last few weeks. And part of my cap the other day.
Should we check handy graphs? Should we go to a last 3 just to show?
Let's look at that, because I went to when I remember when the other day I was like, Chris Paddock is going over, and the reason why I thought Chris Paddock was going over is because even with the off day today, the Tigers don't have starters that can go any length, and I don't think Chris Paddock's going to go over his outs again this season, but Jack Flaherty for sure is not going over his outs in CBP. So while you do that, I am on. You are showing everybody on HandyGraphs what's going on. I am looking on.
Yeah. By the way, his K metrics pretty good over his last 3. Mr. Hopefully future friend of the show. We love Jack Flaherty.
We do like Jack Flaherty.
The pitches per plate appearance. Not great. 4.5. That's pretty bad. And a 1.5 whip over his last 3. So I think that definitely supports at least the outs argument. Looks like he's kind of working through some of the matters.
Do we have lines up yet? Let's see. If we don't have lines up, then I'm just going to, well, right now you've basically said we have a starting pitcher who we think has got a lot of blue. What do we got? And Ranger Suarez. Oh, by the way, way to show off the new game filters.
Casually. Yeah, I know. We'll sleek, just slip that in there in case you didn't see that. You can go, by the way, and just pick any game and then got them right.
So, okay, so we don't have any props up yet. So, like, we'll use HOF Bets, and we're just going to kind of cap this on just on an overall basis of the game. I like the over. I'm just going to tell you right now. I know it's at 8.5, and I know that this sounds really basic, but I really like the over in this game. It's also at even money according on Hall of Fame Bets. I'm seeing it. I like this Phillies team hitting in July and August, and tomorrow's August 1st. And by the way, if Kyle Schwarber is Mr. June, Bryce Harper's Mr. August. So is technically Rhys Hoskins, but that's for another day. I want to take either. I want to look at what a line is, and if they have it up on an alt over first 5 over, maybe.
Let me see if they have that.
If they have
first
that,
5?
I'd like that.
Let me see. Yeah,
give me like,
I kind of like
because I'm gonna guess it's 4.5, and I'd love to take a 5.5. Give me a nice 3-3 after 4.
Well, here's the two. Do we need to go to game for this? Right, I think
it is usually
game lines. We just kind of have.
Yeah.
Tigers over 8.5. I don't know if I'm seeing a line here for the.
They don't have it yet. Well, then
5. Yeah.
I'm just going to take this over. I just want the over 8.5 at even
8.5.
I think this flips by tomorrow morning. Or
yeah, just kind of curious. By the way, I want to look at Tigers 2025 on the over.
Do the last 5 against lefties. They've been they killed a dead team. But still, let me look at handy guess.
Great. But I know Tigers have been really hitting. You can go see that, by the way, on Hall of Fame Bets. Like, you can go just see right here. Probably one of my favorite things here is just the batter form. Like, last 5, they're crushing the ball. That's scoring a ton of runs. Phillies have been pretty good. I like that one.
If you go last to tie it up in a bow, if you go to HandyGraphs, this is only because the Hall of Fame Bets doesn't have it up yet. But if you go to batters and tomorrow, and then go to Detroit and last 30 versus lefty.
Okay, so we want to do Detroit,
and this is just something that I kind of look for a lot. Okay, so last 30 versus lefty. So there are obviously like Gleyber Torres and Jahmai Jones are blue, but neither of those players are very good, and that's fine. But what I care about when I'm looking at something for an over, your metrics look different than mine. I don't know why. Are you looking at right-handed
for tomorrow? No, I'm looking at left. I'm looking at left-handed.
Oh yeah, do last 30. Yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
last 30, and then sort by batting order.
Okay,
that's why. Yep. Okay, yeah, there it is.
Oh, it's just gonna sort in the order. Yep.
Right. So you have a guy who's leading off, who's a former Philly, who is pretty elite right now against lefties, and I like when I see that. It rattles a pitcher when you're getting leadoff guys on. Obviously, this is great for your fees and stuff, but I do like this because Suarez is the kind of guy that kind of thrives on inducing double plays and getting guys on base. So also the bottom of this order is just killing lefties right now. So there are a couple bets. The bets I would commit to are like the over 8.5. I like an alt over first 5, and honestly, I think I might take Tigers first to 3. That might be the bet that I do take, which isn't necessarily up on anything yet, but that's probably going to be like plus 105 or something. And I like that.
I kind of like the over too. I mean, also back end standpoint, bullpen wise, Detroit has been pretty rough on the relief side of things, which is why we're going to talk about that team very shortly. They made a lot of acquisitions to help with that. So yeah, I mean, 8.5 even money. I think I would definitely want to see what the team total or the first 5 line is though too. In addition to that, and by the way, Reds, Braves.
Yep.
I'm fading my man Bryce Elder, who I backed notoriously in the last game.
I didn't get.
Screams a Yurfie, by the way, in this game. Bad matchup for Singer in the first 5. A lot of lefties hitting the ball pretty well. I know you just hate the Braves. I hate the Braves too, just as a Mets fan. But I like that these guys are still going to show up and play games. So I think Yurfie minus 120 is what I found earlier. That is a bet that I have already put.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now. Wow, Bryce Elder 80% to the Yurfie. Do you scroll down? Nice.
Right. Last 5. Yeah, right there.
All right. So anyway, that's again, Hall of Fame Bets, HOFapp.com. They are awesome. Use code DADS. And obviously you saw Handygraphs. Use code HG DADS. All right. Let's talk some trades, and then let's bring in all our friends. Okay. I'm gonna kick it off.
Let's go.
Let's talk it. Let's give me 3 teams that won. That 3 teams. I don't want to say won or lost, but 3 teams that you think came out of this that absolutely helped themselves above and beyond.
Okay, I think the.
Or you give me one,
team,
and we can go back and forth. Or
sure. All right. So I'm gonna go first with the Reds because
love it.
They made 2 big moves, which are going to be low-key under the radar. They were made prior to the deadline. I think that they might have had another move in there, but I know the 2 that I know of are filled a need with Brian Hayes at third base and adding to that lineup. Needed a third baseman, needed to shore up that position desperately, and so they added that. Second thing they added was they got Zach Littell, who weirdly Tampa Bay then made a trade for like
basically acquired him again by getting Adrian Hauser.
I'm sure. That organization, it's like that organization is run by the folks that like run Odds Jam or something.
Oh, Scott will drag them when he comes on, I'm sure.
So yeah, we can talk more with Scott here, but yeah, I love the Littell move. I mean, also because. I capped Littell earlier this week on a Nerfy, so I was pretty familiar with his numbers of late. He's been pretty solid, like a good starting rotation guy. You're asking him to be the third guy probably in a playoff rotation. We don't know what the status is.
Probably the second.
The second. It depends on Hunter Green. You think that Green, that's it.
I don't think Hunter Green's coming back. I don't think he's coming back.
I think in a perfect world, in my Reds futures world, I'd love to have a healthy Hunter Green, and you've got Abbott to kick off. But I think adding Littell, though, that really helps the rotation, gives them another playoff starter, another guy that's also going to eat innings for you during the season. Most of all, I love that this team's buying. Like, I think this team is really trying to make a serious run. I think when they made the Hayes deal, you and I were texting, we should probably start looking at 60 bets now, because clearly they're like, all right, we've seen enough. We're how many games over there? 5 games over 500. I'm looking at what is the standings right now from a wild card? What's their playoff odds? I'm just quickly looking at this.
I don't know, but I know the bet that you and I made is bonkers.
Yes, we did the
The
exact
odds are
matchup.
plus 370, plus 350.
Yeah, which by the way, Fangraphs has their make playoffs at 16.8%, which is only 4.8% higher than the Giants. I definitely disagree with that. Like I think that there is still room for them to grow there. But yeah, that for me, I know the red for mine. Pretty sure I know what one of yours is, but who did you really like coming out of the deadline so far? Early returns today.
So first of all, I realize that like if we both do 3, we won't have time for our guests. So I'm gonna call the audible, and I'm just gonna give you the other one. One, I just want to echo how much I love this Reds deal, and also they got Miguel Andujar too. Like today,
yes, forgot. Okay, I said I did mention there was
lately.
One other guy. I knew that
like these aren't like household names, but he's been hot lately. If anybody else other than Tito was the manager, I wouldn't care. But like,
yes,
Tito's the kind of guy I feel like he's going to get a lot of stuff out of this. I love the Reds right now because of this. I think I went out and you and I both bet Phillies versus Reds as the NLCS at 110 to 1.
110 to 1.
110 to 1. It didn't move over. It didn't move overnight to 100,000, 100 to 1. All their numbers went down, but look, because the Reds aren't getting anything other than the 6th seed if they get in. Like I don't think so. But love their deals. The team that I loved, I love everything that the Tigers did. They did not get a third baseman, and that's fine. McKinsey was the all-star. And Trevor coming in hot, by the way, with his Brewers Padres. We'll talk about that. But I love the Tigers moves. They got Seawald. They went and actually do like the Phillies got Manning, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. They they've really shored up the bullpen. The Tigers, to me, I've wanted reasons over the last week of their slump to believe. And the biggest thing for this team is that they are since June 1st, they are the number 1 bullpen usage team. We saw Mize basically fall off a cliff the other day. We hear Reese Olson's going to be hurt and is out for whatever for a pretty short time. They got Charlie Morton. Who's been surprisingly good and will eat innings. They got guys who are going to eat innings for them. I love this Detroit team. Still like sing it, and I will ship them.
Can I make one additional piggyback on that real quick? One quick point is before we bring in our first guest here, which is this that. By the way, Tigers, with everything going on in their slump, 4th in starting pitching more since June 1st, 5th in batting more since June 1st. So lineup and starting pitching has remained excellent. They are 30th in relief since June 1st. And like you said, they've still got some great relievers in that pen.
They got Finnegan today.
And they got Finnegan that they added, who will absolutely be a guy in their playoff bullpen, rotation. You've got Vest, you've got Holton. These are they're not sexy moves, but they are, like you said, they're ways to keep that pen fresh. So it really, to me, they didn't need to add a bat. They didn't need to add a starting pitcher. They needed just to add more guys to eat innings to their bullpen, and getting Finnegan to me was a bonus. So I really like that. They're 9 games up in the division too. You don't need to go and try and make a splashy move.
They are, the Royals, though, sitting there in their division being like, we exist, and just hoarding pitchers like that dude in your fantasy league who's just picking up quarterbacks. So we love the Tigers. This is a really good time, though, to turn, I think, our attention to teams that we do personally care about. I see you wore your Mets gear. I wore my hybrid fish Phillies gear.
Had to.
I know. So look, Scott is not a Mets fan, but we're gonna bring him in because he counts for New York. So Scott Reichel is coming in. Scott, who the internet rumors continue to insist that he's my son, but he is not. To
be clear, we've never done the DNA test, so we are leaving the door open.
Somebody commented on our show tweet the other day of like, yo, your son and you gave out really great picks the other day.
Mm-hmm. Can we send Scott the gift that I sent you earlier today too, when the Rangers made their trade, to see if it has any resemblance to Scott? Because you and I said, this looks like a guy if you and I made a baby. And I'm like, I wonder how close that is to Scott.
It possibly. All right. So Scott is here, and from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, from the MLB, yes, and the tennis one that makes us a lot of money, but we don't talk about it here. We are going to talk, though, from you about a team that made a ton of moves in the area. Well, first I want to talk about your New York Yankees, and then I would love to hear about the New York Metropolitans. And I want to hear, Scott, what do you think? What are your reactions trade deadline overall? And then let's focus on these New York teams.
Well, for the last hour before the deadline, I was mid podcast in the MLB realm, so I was trying to update the feed as I was actually like previewing games, trying to keep track of stuff. I thought both the New York teams did very well. Now, briefly on the Yankees, I loved what they did with the bullpen, which was a mess. They turned it into a strength. I like the moves they made there with Bednar. I liked the Doval moves. They really did a good job of actually piecing
Doval's
together.
Sneaky. Doval's really good.
He is.
He lost his job last year, but he was really good this year.
Yeah, he's good. Bird, I feel like, is kind of the wild card there, where if they get anything out of him, that's just an extra bonus because you already like the other two guys they got. They got a shortstop, so I might have to see Les Volpe, thank God, who is tied for the league lead in stolen bases in Caballero. I like their moves. Could they have used a starting pitcher? Probably. I think the Yankees might have left a little bit of meat on the bone there for a starting pitcher. I liked their move, though. Cashman did enough to keep his job next offseason, despite the Yankees fans wanting him fired again for about the 20th year in a row. But I like what the Yankees did for the trade deadline. Same with the Mets. The Mets did a good job as well. Looking at their moves, they ended up getting Helsley, who we know has been a very solid pitcher. Not as good this year as he was last year. I mean, last year he had 49 saves, a 2 ERA.
Yeah.
He's just a very solid option there. But they also ended up getting Soto. I'm not a Soto guy. I'm talking about, of course, G Soto, not Juan Soto. But I'm not a fan of the other Soto. But I'll put it this way. You know what? He's a flamethrower. He's a lefty. He can give you some type of variety in that pen. They got a center fielder, which they desperately needed in Mullins, who I know is not exactly the best hitter. He has some home runs this season, more than you might expect. Defensively, over the past week, he's been a lunatic, and he's had a bunch of defensive highlights. I think he's a good addition for the Mets, too. Now, you could have argued that maybe Vientos was the piece they could have moved. The White Sox decided, you know what? We actually like Luis Robert, and decided not to get rid of him.
Dude, how weird was that, man?
Loser this deadline, okay? The Chicago White Sox, big time loser. Your team stinks already, and yet you decide to hold on to Luis Robert one more time. I'm not bitter about not being able to get Luis Robert, even though I've been dreaming about this for 4 weeks now. But this, what are they doing at this point with Cuban Mike Trout? I guess if there was ever a time that you were going to trade him, I know, Adam, I have to go back and look at his splits for the last month, but this is as high as you were going to sell on Luis Robert. So I don't.
Which I'm sure
it's kind of fitting though, because both of your teams were linked to him, and then they just didn't get rid of him.
And it is because they probably asked too much. I mean,
that's why I like the Mullins move though, because Robert was clearly option A. And Vientos, whether or not the Mets wanted to get rid of him, I know you have some type of platoon there with him and Beatty, whatever. I'm not going to go there.
Scott really hates Beatty. Scott,
I'm not a Beatty guy. I know he's been better a bit lately. I'm still not exactly trustworthy of Beatty. He's been better than I thought the last couple months. But still, you have a platoon there.
I would rather have Mauricio. I would say Mauricio and Vientos. I would still take Mauricio and Vientos over no Vientos, even as bad as Vientos has been. I think I would be putting Mauricio there as your full-time third baseman or platooning with Beatty. I don't think Stearns was interested in doing that. And I think that the Vientos thing was kind of it was going to be Vientos, but they're going to need something else back, maybe Hauser. And I think the White Sox were like, no, it's got to be Vientos and something for Luis Robert. So I think that Mullins clearly was option B. He's a lefty. He hits lefties well. Mets don't have enough lefties.
He's got speed.
They haven't been hitting lefties well. So it's a plug and play. It's a B minus B type of player that you.
I thought it was a solid plan B because Robert was clearly option A, and then the White Sox decided at the last minute, for better or worse, this guy's actually been good lately. Let's keep him, even though we're 70 games under 500. So the Mets decided, you know what? Baltimore's trying to get rid of an outfielder too, who robbed a home run the other day, had a diving catch. He's a very good fielder, whether you like Mullins at the plate or not. I do like him. I'm assuming he'll be a bottom of the order guy with speed. That's fine. It's not really a big deal. Point is, he's better than Taylor. It's really what you needed in the outfield. So there you go. So you got yourself an outfielder without having to give up much. I do like the Helsley addition. I like the moves the Mets made. I think they are one of the winners of the deadline. Did they do enough to put themselves in the driver's seat of the NL? I'm not going to say all that, but I do think the team got better, which is the main objective of the trade deadline. So I like what the Mets did. I like what the Yankees did. coincidentally, I also like what the Phillies did. So if you're asking for winners, I think we actually represent three of the bigger winners of the deadline. Now, it's going to open up a conversation to what San Diego did and the other teams. I know that Adam and I have some hot takes on Seattle for reference for the winners of
Not
the
in
deadline.
This crowd, they are lukewarm.
No, you're yeah. You don't need to run away.
Just saying, compared to the general
having me
consensus, a
also
lot of people
with
love
that.
Seattle's move. I was more lukewarm on their moves,
Yeah.
but
I mean, but probably the guys. Not throwing these people under the bus, but there are certain outlets, including maybe a major sports network, that has
exactly
graded
what
Seattle and has graded San Diego as A+ for the deadline, and clearly have watched maybe 3 games of baseball.
And season. a former employer of one of our previous guests loved it, and I was like, no.
I do want to point out with Seattle, we kind of talked about. The AL West is kind of a shit show, to be honest. So we'll see if Seattle even makes a playoff spot. It's a separate point. The San Diego trade for Miller, I have found objectively fascinating because we know Preller is always going to be pushing all his chips in the middle. So much so you wonder how many rebuys he keeps doing in his poker games because he keeps entering all his chips into the pot. But the point is, they bought again. They got a couple of good options with O'Hearn, who's been very underrated so far this season. They've been aggressive, but I do find it kind of absurd they gave up one of the top prospects in baseball, a top 5 prospect, for a closer. I know Suarez has kind of been falling off a cliff lately, but you had a closer in place. You got another guy who's been underachieving this year, even though I think we all like Miller as a pitcher. And there are rumors you might convert him to being a starting pitcher.
Again, that's what he was. That's what he was.
Pitcher for that? A top 5 prospect for that? It just felt like I like Miller as a player. I get it. For a wild card potential team, I know they're only 3 games back of the Dodgers. That's a lot to give up for a high-end reliever when you might be a wild card team.
I think that, Scott, is the only way that trade actually makes sense. Yeah. Is if they truly believe that Mason Miller, he has such good stuff that we with the correct coaching, getting him out of Sacramento, the Vegas dump, that we can convert him into a starter and he can be a very good starting pitcher. Because if that's not the plan, to me, this trade, I was blown away to see DeVries in this deal, especially because, yes, like you said, Suarez kind of starting to fall off a cliff. They're still the best bullpen by WAR in baseball since June 1st.
Morejon's great. They got a bunch of guys.
Not even close. They're a full win above the Dodgers. So you added strength on your best strength for the team.
The thing with also Miller is that Miller was a starter, was converted. By the way, for all the crap that we give Oakland, the A's,
they were Oakland. That's fine. You can say
sure.
Oakland.
The A's have consistently for years built great pitchers, so it's not as I don't think that there's a massive change in the coaching that he's going to get. I love to remind people that Mackenzie Gore couldn't figure it out when he was with the Padres, and then when he went over to do the Nats, that's when he got way better at coaching, and a lot of these gems within that organization did that. But for Miller, they converted him because they realized that he just wasn't going to ever build the conditional arm strength to be able to go distance. So basically, you've now created a 3-year plan, one that's really going to be a 1-year plan after they do a lockout because of this stupid salary cap. And it was a lot of, to me, it was a lot of chips in the middle on a very, very mid team that comes out of it looking like it's like Chip Kelly, running a fantasy football team and being I'm going to pick all the players from 2000. It's great. And I don't buy this Padres team at all, but there's reasons why I want them to succeed. And that has to do with our seeding bets. But yeah, I don't think that the Padres are kind of a winner.
Did you like the other moves though with O'Hearn and with I find Laureano a pretty
weird
player to evaluate.
I like Laureano. I've always liked Laureano.
He's been great this year, which is kind of
right.
Yeah, I was actually kind of looking for the Mets to potentially go.
I like Laureano.
He's had a very I'll say it this way: he's had a very bipolar career. He's either been really good or terrible. And that's why he's bounced around the league a lot.
But that's what he does.
I like those two guys. I think the Miller acquisition though just felt like an extreme overpay. And that's why I had to
way overpay.
So that's why I'm lower on what the Padres did, but I still like their team. Would I pick them to beat the Dodgers in the division? Probably not. Would I pick them to make the World Series? No. So I think it's an overpay, but, that's kind of how I look at it. I'll ask you, are there any other teams kind of off the radar that you wanted to talk about? Because you mentioned the Reds, which I like their moves as well. But maybe even from a loser perspective, I'm shocked the Cubs did nothing. That was one of the shockers that I had. I thought the Cubs would do something. Milwaukee didn't do anything. For
the hottest team in baseball, Milwaukee not doing anything is both surprising and I guess as a Cubs backer, it's pretty satisfying.
I make jokes all the time, though. The Brewers are a poor organization because they just never want to buy at the deadline. I make running jokes about this all the time. So I was not surprised compared to most that Milwaukee sat there and did nothing. Then again, you could argue that if Andrew Vaughn counts as one of their trade deadline pieces and he's having a Yankees Matt Carpenter season, then I guess that's good enough. But the point is, the Cubs I thought were shocking.
That's such a great comp. What a great comp.
The Cubs are still like a big market team, and they are in an absolute dogfight with Milwaukee. They lost the series to Milwaukee earlier this week. The Brewers not doing much, I think, was expected, at least in my eyes, because I never view them as being a team that will be spending serious assets. They never do. The Cubs, though, I don't really know what you're doing. You decided to finally clean up a little bit of the bullpen because you got rid of one of your worst relievers, who you DFA'd, by the way. You didn't even get anything for him. The Cubs, I thought, were just shocking in their inactivity. I thought they were going to do at least something. They were linked to a bunch of guys. I know you made a joke about Toronto. They were linked to a bunch of guys, too. And they got like
Ty
one
France.
guy. They got Ty France. At least they got somebody. The Cubs didn't get anybody. I don't know what the Cubs are doing. So I thought the Cubs are the biggest loser, in my opinion.
I would agree. I would agree that the Cubs didn't fix the one thing that they really needed to fix, which was they needed more pitching.
Yeah, they just sat there.
CJ,
well, I mean, they got Michael Soroka, who you and I both said maybe would be a future Yankee. We thought we're like this. Actually,
I thought he was going to be a Yankee.
I'll totally credit the guys on Talking Baseball for the fact that like this Soroka, he should be deployed as a reliever, not as a starter. And if the Cubs get him and use him in that capacity, I actually think that would be a very smart move for them. But like you had starters on the market that you didn't have to pay an absurd price. Like go look at what was even paid, who came at the very end of the day with some great moves with the Rangers going out and getting my boy, our dog, Merrill Kelly, who was sitting right there as another pick. Like if you're able to get a Littell, like what the Reds did, getting Littell, if you go out and you get a Merrill Kelly, you don't have to go get a Sandy, but they needed somebody to kind of shore up, at least add another consistent, solid arm to that rotation. I don't even know necessarily, besides Boyd, who is your second and third starters now for your?
Imanaga would be somewhere in there.
Imanaga would have
Imanaga, but
Ben Brown is back in the rotation, which really would
right. Like, and they're near dead last. I still always say like bullpens kind of come and go. You can always still kind of even in midseason fix bullpens, but starting pitching, like if you're 28th in starting pitching since beginning of June, and you don't really do anything at the deadline besides get Soroka, who's a pretty mid starting pitcher as it is. I don't know. I'm with you. I thought the Cubs, that was a big swing and a miss for them. What about the one team I also wanted to ask your opinion on too, Scott, that Adam and I were texting about was, what about the Astros? Was the Carlos Correa reunion, did that seem a little bit out of left field, weird to you? Because I don't know how much that really moves the needle for me.
Are we getting the garbage cans back in place?
I guess so.
I'm just asking because I don't think Correa is really worth much. I thought that whole Minnesota tenure was a disaster. I was trying to think about it before on the show when I was doing the MLB pod today. It was the Mets who changed their mind about the Correa contract.
Yes, it was two teams.
I remember the Giants did too.
Yeah.
So there
were
two
teams.
Physicals. Yeah, the physical was a problem, and the Twins said, Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll take Correa.
Well, because they only had his stuff, and they're like, well, we know his doctor. But
and that clearly did not work out. So, no, I'm not sold on damaged goods Carlos Correa fixing this Houston team. Now, I do think Houston in that, truth is the Paredes injury is a disaster. He's out for like 7 months. They got serious problems there. Correa, you can argue, is going to be nice for the locker room for leadership purposes. I don't think that matters that much. Houston, then again, always seems to create teams that just find ways to win. But would I pick them to win multiple playoff rounds? Or do I think they're more likely to lose in the first round like they did to the Tigers last year with home field? Probably option B. I don't think it really did anything. for Houston. I think Houston is a pretty decent team, but that's basically it. The AL is open. A lot of people can argue that if Jordan comes back, big if based on health, then maybe they can figure some stuff out. I disagree. Do you like their rotation? I mean, Brown and Valdez are a good one too, even though Brown's kind of been struggling the last month or so. But
I thought I did, but like Arrighetti was supposed to be back by now.
Yeah,
and
that's
now
problematic too.
This is the problem, that you have all these guys that are like, hey, so-and-so is going to come back. The problem is that they don't have enough time to build up their arm strength. Like, this was my issue with the Shane Bieber trade on for Toronto, is that it didn't address the two issues that they had. One, they have no lefties in their rotation. CJ pointed this out a couple days ago. And two, they 66% of the innings from their starting pitchers are coming from three guys, two of which are over 35 years old. By the way, Max Scherzer, who is the older guy on that team, he's only thrown 35 innings this season. Their fourth highest, and this is not supposed to be about Toronto, but like the Bowden Francis has like the fourth most innings pitched. You're not going to get that out of a guy who just had Tommy John surgery. So to the point with the Astros, because one of the things that they did was they got rid of Gusto, who I know none of us are Gusto guys, but he was eating innings and he was doing what he's like. And at this point, he'd been pitching for 2.5 months. None of these Astros moves do anything for me. It's kind of like the AL Padres. I just didn't understand any of it. And the Correa thing really doesn't make any sense to me because it felt like a panic. Also, they're paying the entire contract. That's a huge contract. And the footnote was that in the Twins fire sale that the Astros were like, yeah, we'll take the whole thing. So they are stuck with Correa for a long time.
I think the Twins are eating like $32 million. I think I saw that. They're eating
but the contract's for like 270.
Mm-hmm.
He only signed it 2 years ago. It's a pretty extensive deal. So the thing is, Paredes must have an injury. I mean, I know they've talked about it and he's really hurt, but like that must be what we thought Matt Chapman had. Because like, if you're willing to take on a guy because you can't move Correa, what are you going to do with that now? And you have Pena at shortstop, so it's not like you're going to move him back. Like, is Paredes dead? Like, what's going on?
I thought I saw he was out for like 7 months. I think his hamstring like fell off.
Yeah, but you're stuck with this for next year. This is like the weirdest all-in move, though. It's a guy with no power who just happened to come up through the organization. And by the way, I never thought was that great.
Who also gets injured all the time.
And gets injured all the time.
So that's a factor too. I do want to ask you about one team. Kind of switch. So I also want to talk about the Astros, which we can. I just want to switch.
No. We'll do this, and then we're going to bring Matt in, and then we're going to boot you and bring Matt in.
Who else is on top of your mind, Scott?
Yeah, just one team I want to mention, maybe as a loser because they didn't do much and they've been good lately. Miami. You're linked to trade away a bunch of people. You abandon Jesus Sanchez, who I know has had a bad year, but he was one of your, I'd say, more intriguing prospects in years past. For Gusto, who I think we all don't really like.
I don't even know. I don't think we care. Like he's like a what? He's like a non-playable.
He's a whatever.
Character.
But the point is, like Sanchez, you were trying to build up. You kept Alcantara. You kept Perez. You could argue maybe it's a good thing.
Sanchez is a platoon guy, though. Like, and that's gonna. And the Astros do need that because they don't have any left. Jordan. This also means that Jordan, like, he's basically B-side Jordan. Like, he's a lefty bat that is gonna do whatever. But I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think they were better trading off Sandy at the deadline or during the offseason? Because I feel like they could have gone to
off-season, winter meetings.
Offseason, so? Definitely the offseason. Okay. I think the offseason, and also I think that, if you look at someone tweeted this today that this is not happening, but I'm just quoting the stat that they're in the same place that the Tigers were before they got a wild card last season. Like they're kind of an almost similar makeup of team in that. A lot of young guys, they've been playing really well of late. A little bit, probably. I know Adam, you and I had them for worst record. At the beginning
that died.
But
because they don't strike out.
I think they're not going to catch a wild card, but I think they're in sort of a limbo position where their team has actually shown more upside than they anticipated. They're maybe a year closer than they thought, and I think. I don't have a problem with them waiting till the offseason to kind of see what Sandy can do, if anything, increase his trade value through the end of the season. And if not, you still have him under control and you can still potentially bring this team back and try to tell your fans that you've got the former Cy Young Sandy Alcantara as one of your starters coming into next year. He's fully healthy. He's got a good year under his belt, and it's a team that could compete for a wild card. So I think it just kind of keeps the options open for them. I think if they were going to trade him, they were going to have to get some massive package back in order to That seems to be what the kind of consensus was. And I don't necessarily have a problem with them waiting until the offseason.
It just caught me off guard. So maybe I'm not fully against it, but I kind of just figured based on all the mock trades, etc. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Miami's going to trade off half their team again because they always do. And they actually kept everybody for once, which I thought kind of caught me off guard. But anyway, I know you got other people to bring on. Shout out to Tampa. Shout out to the White Sox for whatever the hell those two teams are doing.
Oh yeah, really, those teams are idiots. Scott, tell everybody where they can find you as we bring in Matt.
Yeah, you can find me on a Twitter Reichel Radio. Find me on the Sports Game Podcast Network. I'm doing a prop show with you tomorrow morning, so you can find us there too. 6-0 episode. Last time out, we swept. Double sweep.
Oh yeah, dude. We not only we swept, but like shout out to Rhythm for basically winning us a Syracuse tuition. So all right, Scott, I will talk to you in an hour because that's what I always do.
Yeah, sounds good. All
right, let's bring in Matt. Producer Spencer can bring in Matt. There he is. Matt. Oh no, he's gone. I don't see. There he is. All right,
he's back.
All right. So first of all, Matt Pollack, who's one of my closest friends, has known me for like 20 plus years. Matt started AEPi at Syracuse. CJ was in AEPi. CJ is not Jewish, but he's the Ricky Petroselli. He is the Ricky Petroselli of Ohio University's AEPi, just so you know.
We take all comers.
That's what it is. So I bring Matt in because there are two people that know Philadelphia sports extremely well. I'm not one of them. It's Matt and his father, Alan, and who I enjoy. And thank you, Gundamaticus. They poop to prove you are alive. We poop to prove we are alive. Matt. So we talked about this with our buddy, also AEPi, Dean, last night. Give me initial takes. Did the Phillies do what you wanted them to do? Are we missing anything? And kind of grade us out a little bit, and let's figure out like is there a bet we can make on this one too?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely thrilled with Joan Duran. Dombrowski, since he's come over, he has this reputation of being a big seller. He's going to sell off your farm and, win you a World Series. He hasn't done any of that. And this is the first big move that he's made as a GM with the Phillies at the trade deadline. And I think it's a great one. It really solidifies the entire bullpen. If you look at it, you move Kerkering and Strahm back to traditional 7th, 8th inning roles. Robertson is an addition to solidify, and Tanner Banks in that 5-6 role if you need them early. And I think everybody slots up. It's something the Phillies haven't had in a long time, where they've had, kind of set roles in the bullpen. And I think that makes things a lot easier for everyone, especially, with Duran. He's one of the most dominant relievers in Major League Baseball over the last 4 years. Ordinarily, I'd be a little gun shy about selling off top prospects for a relief pitcher, but the ones I gave away are ones that I think I'm happy to make that bet. You have a guy in Abel who, I like him, but I think he's blocked in the organization. And he probably profiles as a back of the rotation starter anyway. Maybe he's a 3. So I'm comfortable giving that up. Eduardo Tait, he's like 17 years old, 18 years old.
He's not going to be here for a bit.
2 or 3 years. Yeah. And I think you have a window now, right? You have Wheeler for the next 2.5 years. He says he's going to retire after that. Take advantage. Duran is controllable for those next 2 years after this. And I love it. I'm fired up. I can't wait to see his entrance music. I think the Citizens Bank Park is gonna be jumping. It's the only one that I think rivals Diaz in New York, and they got that bell ringing in the beginning of his entrance.
Hold the trumpets, everybody. Okay, all right. Let's you got to come out and have like 40 plus saves or whatever with the Phillies before we start getting into the into the
I think especially you come into late September, early October, Bank's going to be jumping when that music comes in.
I got to ask because this does remind me a lot last year of when the Phillies got Carlos Estevez, who, by the way, loved that move last year too, in getting Estevez to come in and be a flamethrower. I mean, had it obviously a career year. What was it? 2.45 ERA.
Right.
I think people will remember, at least I fondly remember this as a Mets fan, the giving up the grand slam to Lindor in the divisional series. I don't blame Estevez necessarily. It's not like he had a bad.
No, he also inherited those runners.
And he inherited them too. Exactly. Yeah. So it's not his fault. I am kind of curious. So what is the difference here with Duran versus bringing in a guy like Estevez? Because I heard this same story from a lot of Phillies fans last season, and I think Duran is different. I agree with you, but I'm just kind of curious on why you think that this is. We're going to see something change between the bullpen from 2024 to 2025.
I mean, I think part of the difference is that Estevez was riding a hot streak last year. That was the best that he had pitched in his career. Duran is just a dominant player. He's got some of the most filthy stuff in Major League Baseball, and he's so dominant. And I think he's got this proven track record of it. And it's somebody that, in addition to just kind of being a hired arm to get them through the end of this season, he's there, the next couple of years. And it solidifies everything. I think even with Estevez, he's just not that kind of dominant closer that, when he's coming in, all things are off the table. And I think, that splinker that he throws is, I've been watching him on Twitter since, last 5 years, with Pitching Ninja and just wishing that, I could get some of that stuff on my team. And it's just nasty stuff.
Him and Jax, I've always had on Twins. I've had them in fantasy, and they're just great because it's just like, I remember a couple years ago where it's like, hey, Duran's going to take over the closer job, and he's got 100-mile-per-hour fastball, but he also has 3 other pitches. But I agree with you. I mean, being able to do that on a bad team is awesome. You talked about the slotting. To me, the biggest slot that saves everybody in this is the guy who I was obviously very high on this year, and that's Jordan Romano. And Jordan Romano being able to be the 6th, being the guy who comes out in the 6th or 7th inning and not the guy who has to go out in a high leverage situation is going to be much better for Jordan Romano. He actually, you look at all of his splits this year, he's completely fallen apart in every high leverage situation, and he's been very streaky. But when he is in a non-high leverage situation and he's building confidence, he's doing that. He doesn't have to worry about that. He has to pitch well to get his closer job back. It kind of moves a lot of things along in a way that I do like it. The other thing on this, as we go back to, the original callback joke for all this, Harrison Bader, nice Jewish boy from the Bronx. I do not know if he was 85, but so we didn't get Luis Robert. I guarantee it was because the ask was too high. Thoughts on Bader? I don't even know who we gave up because it couldn't have been anything that was but what do you think on Bader? I've only bet his, first, second, and third plate appearance Ks. That was that CJ. That was that Sunday night where we just raked because they were going against Skubal, and I was just like, let's just keep banging it. And was that
the one where Skubal had like 13 Ks, or he had like 7
Ks? And every single time Bader kept coming up, and it was plus 240. I'm like, I'm hitting this again. But anyway, what do you think? What do you think about now that I've tore him down? What do you think about Bader kind of coming into that outfield, and does it solve any of our problems?
First, kudos to both of you for calling that last week. I didn't see that one coming, actually. And, you guys had it. You were on it before anybody else that I'd heard. It's almost like when Berg and I made up the rumor that Jim Thome was coming to the Phillies.
Yeah, we did. We
also were putting in the universe, Matt, that Ranger Suarez was going to be a Baltimore Oriole as of 9:48 p.m. Eastern today. But
I'm glad that one didn't pan out. But, I think Bader is fine. I know that there are, talking to friends, talking to family, the group chats were pissed that Phillies didn't do more to get a better bat. But there weren't a lot of big bats that exchanged hands in this trade deadline. Gino Suarez, I don't know if that would have been better for the Phillies. You have to play him at third. Then you're moving Bohm to first when he comes back. Then Harper's in the outfield. He's never played left. You're moving Castellanos there. None of that, I think, really makes sense for this Phillies team. So I know that there are people that are upset about that. I don't know if that move would have made sense. Other than that, there weren't a lot of big names that moved. There weren't a lot of big bats that moved. And I think Bader is fine. He is a great fielder. I know the Phillies have stressed defense in the outfield, especially with Castellanos and on one side, that the other side has been important.
He's Gold Glove in the playoffs, though. Let's be honest. Castellanos has 2 of the most memorable catches in the playoffs over the last 5 years.
And he's said it. Like when he's engaged, when he's paying attention, he can be a great fielder. But we're still in July here, so we got to wait a couple months before he's going to be paying that much attention in the field. Anyway, I think he gives them a right-handed bat. That makes more sense to me. Stephen Kwan, was the other rumored name, but he's another lefty. He brings no power. I didn't really see that made sense. It's a shame the one guy who's left in Minnesota is Byron Buxton. I think that would have been an interesting move for the Phillies, but he's got a no trade clause. He's made very clear that he wants to retire as a Twin. So I think I'm generally okay with the Bader move. I don't think it's going to fix the offense, and that's a problem. We've seen the last 2 years what happens. The Phillies are very streaky. As a hitting team generally, and this year especially, they've had some gaping holes in the lineup. Even guys that have been previously pretty reliable, like Bryson Stott, that make me worry. That could certainly, you get cold in one of those short series, and that spells a lot of trouble. They're going to be very reliant on Schwarber and Harper, but that's who this team has been for the last 3 years, 4 years.
So the sneaky thing. You made me.
Well, one thing.
Go on, Mark. Go on.
Yeah. So that was I thought it was. I think it's fine. I think it's the same thing as you. I think he's going to be able to. He's actually going to get at the bottom of that lineup, probably get good pitches. Because he's great when he gets good pitch. He's just he's not a stud, but he's going to even get good pitches. I didn't realize this. He's an 809 OPS in the playoffs, and he's actually and 5 home runs and 72 PAs. That's pretty good. So I will take that as a playoff bat. I just can't, the problem to me is that what happens in that lineup now is that this past week it's been Trey Turner, but he was super hot, so I'm not going to get on him. But Kepler, not Castellanos, creates such a hole at 6, and you have to drop him then to 7. It's been okay when different guys are stepping up at different times. And the one thing I don't worry about on this offense this year that I've worried about in the past is that this offense is not as reliant on the home. They're built to hit home runs, but they haven't been reliant on the home runs. And so Bader being down there and just knowing he's got a 45% hard hit rate this year. He is smashing the ball. If he fails his PED test at the offseason, great. I don't care. It's good for us. But having Kepler has been such a black hole in that lineup. It's reminiscent of Rhys Hoskins in that playoff run. And I just think that I still like this lineup better than those two lineups.
Yeah, I think getting Kepler out of the lineup is one of the best things that comes out of this. I am so done with that guy. They could DFA him tonight.
He's very handsome, though. He's extremely handsome. I just want to point that out.
That's fine. We've got enough. We got enough lookers on the rest of the roster.
That's true. That's true.
No style points. I honestly, one of the things that I think would be interesting moving forward. I'd like to see, if they bring up Crawford. That could be interesting. I think
that sounds imminent from what Dombo's been saying, is that they're looking for a way to do it.
I had the opposite read from what he said. Really? Is basically he needs to be playing every day, and we don't have the room for him to do that right now. Oh, and that might mean we're going to wait until we can DFA.
That's what I read it as. I read it that they're going to DFA Kepler.
So, I mean, we'll see. Maybe that, kind of provides a little bit of a spark to line up. I don't want to put too much weight on a rookie, August call-ups shoulders to fix the offense. But I, might as well try. He hasn't been, he's moved up. He hasn't shied away at any of the stops in the minors. He's hit everywhere, and it's just not going to be for a lot of power. But let's
fine. Keep him on base. Fine. Yeah, we're totally fine with that. CJ, what were you saying? And then I kind of want to think about how do we take a very chalky team and bet them futures wise after you kind of give your takes on the team that you have been taught to despise, but because we do a show together, you're like,
I told you, I've said
like Christopher Sanchez.
It's like my, it's like a Stockholm syndrome with me and the Phillies. It's like I'm just convinced that I talk so much Phillies that I practically know more about the Phillies anymore. It's just whenever I'm, listening to Cleveland Browns radio every Monday after them losing and just drinking the tears of fans. And yet I know so much about that organization as a Steelers fan. Matt, and by the way, when you mentioned Romano going into lower leverage situations, I'm going to push back on that just to say that when you've got Christopher Sanchez, Zach Wheeler, and Duran behind you, you're going to be going into some pretty high leverage situations in the 7th or 8th inning to try and make sure that you get to Duran. So I don't necessarily know if that takes it. You're going to be in high leverage no matter what if he's coming out of the pen in the postseason. That would be the only pushback I'd have there. I guess the last thing I just asked.
Right on, CJ.
Thank you.
Please,
tell me when I'm right, because
I just want to say, here's me just trying to save Jordan Romano.
I don't need to see Jordan Romano again for a long time.
Here's the last thing.
I think our saves leader bet and him to get 30 is dead. Just saying, I think it's definitely dead.
Here's the last thing I want to ask you, Matt, because as you know, when I see what the Mets did, when I see what the Phillies did, to me, I feel like you would agree with this. Both had pretty successful deadlines, not A+ type of deadlines, but they filled needs and they got a lot better in those areas of need. And specifically, when you look at the Mets bullpen, it was a disaster. Now it's become a strength. Phillies bullpen, a little bit better than the Mets, but now you have a legit closer as part of that. Mets didn't address starting pitching. Phillies didn't address the lineup as much as they maybe could have, even if there wasn't quite a market there. Between those two teams, just because it's just been so back and forth the whole season, if you're putting the Phillies in and I'm not even going to say this is at Citi Field or Citizens, because we know if you're at Citi Field, you're going to probably lose that series. That's just the way the Phillies have played there. On a neutral field right now, though, in a 5-game set for the division, are we still taking the Phillies given the starting pitching advantage?
Yeah, I mean, in a 5-game series where you can go Wheeler, Sanchez, and then whatever.
Probably Nola.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the other piece of all of this is they're going to get another bullpen arm when Nola comes back and they move somebody to the pen, especially whether that's going to be you need 3 pitchers in when you get to the playoffs. And so
Luzardo, by the way,
Luzardo's the best fit.
Yes.
I think
Luzardo he's willing to do it.
And Ranger can do it too, right? He's shown that he's had that flexibility. He's come in the high pressure situations before. I think that pen. I don't want to see Romano pitch in the playoffs.
He probably won't. And this is.
I don't think they're going to need it.
They aren't going to need him, but this is not to go back to CJ's point though. But I do think that Luzardo ends up in that bullpen because Luzardo's big issue has been third time through the order, and you don't have to worry about that if he's just throwing 98 against. I want from the 7th until the 9th, I just want 98, 98, 98, 100, 100, 100 because that is what I want my relievers doing. I would probably Suarez is who I'm bringing in if Luzardo has gotten the bases loaded and I need someone and I need that double play induced, or if somehow we're playing the Braves because I just know he owns them. But anyway, but CJ, sorry, you were saying some, you were continuing.
No,
to,
I mean,
on
the Mets side, I think a Clay Holmes going back to the bullpen is imminent. I think that could be happening within the next 4 to 5 weeks instead of by the playoffs. But I mean, look, even as a Mets fan, I would agree the starting pitching advantage is still so strong on the Phillies side. And the fact that Suarez, even though we were wish casting in some ways that the Phillies were going to make a big move and trade him, that is still somebody that's going to, I think, he's still going to increase your chances to win the division versus maybe he's not going to obviously be as helpful in a postseason situation because you're going to be relying on Wheeler, Sanchez, and probably Nola for a Game 3 start. I am kind of interested to see too, with the Phillies and the strength they have with that left-handed pitching, are we going to see, I know Adam, Phillies history against the Dodgers has been pretty good. That's still a team that hits lefties pretty well though. So, that the lineup from the Phillies perspective, I don't think it's as
not
maybe
Ohtani. Golden Sombrero the other night against Lodolo.
If you look over at the season too, Phillies are still 13th in WRC plus in the last 2 months, and they're 8th in that or 7th in that department actually since July 1st. So I still think an addition of Bader overall, it's not sexy, but it does improve the lineup at least a little bit in terms of filling in that outfield need. And if the starting pitching is as good as starting pitching needs to be, they don't need to be a top 4, top 5 offense. They just need to be in probably, to me, that like top 10.
And the problem is, and we've seen it the last couple of years, is that when that lineup gets cold, they're not, right? And if the wrong people hit the slumps in the wrong time, I mean, they're not going to go anywhere. And I do think, that I think the Mets did like a very comparable job to what the Phillies did. They solidified the bullpen, improved it a lot, got another outfield bat that'll doesn't move the needle a ton, but
they needed lefties in that lineup.
They both got better. Exactly. Teams before, they both got a little bit better, this week.
Do you is there a bet? It could be Phillies related, or has there been like, I don't know if you got to look, but is there any future that kind of jumped out to you? Like for us being such like Reds nerds, like our biggest thing was if I forecast, like we mentioned earlier, but if we forecast a Reds run, the Reds to me feel like a team that if they got in, they would make a run. They just in the way that they're built. But we did an exacta of them versus Phillies in the NLCS. Is there any bet that you kind of seen this afternoon? Are you kind of eyeing, or you like someone's future that you might be wanting to buy right now?
Well, I'll ask you, gentlemen. One of the things that has stuck out at me, and I've been tracking it for a little bit of time. The NL Cy Young race. You have Skeens that seems to be running away with it. He's at like minus 175 or something like that, and then you have Wheeler who's like just like plus 150, and then Christopher Sanchez is plus 4,000. He's third, and it just seems to me if you look at their numbers, he's a little behind them right now, but his WAR is actually, I think, higher than Wheeler's, and I think he's an excellent pitcher. I think it's easy just from a value perspective to see how plus 4,000 could make sense if you're looking at that Cy Young race.
First of all, never got to convince us to put money on Christopher Sanchez. He is literally like CJ and I are.
One of the founding pieces of Adam and my friendship is Christopher Sanchez.
It's Christopher Sanchez and Pete Alonso. But yeah, we are all in on Christopher Sanchez. We actually have him. We have 100-1 from preseason for everything, but I would still buy it at 40-1. The only thing that gives me any pause in that market, and I agree with you. If you actually look at all the WAR metric, he leads the NL in WAR, and it's not even close. He is the fact that Wheeler will continue. Wheeler being even short odds now, he has a bridesmaids narrative, and like guys like Jason Stark who are voters, like while yes he's biased because he's Philadelphia, they're good. Sanchez is going to take away probably a couple votes, but they're dying to give it to Wheeler and they're dying to give it to Skeens, and I definitely think that it becomes a 2-horse race in that sense. But Sanchez is the one, because like something happens. You can't tell me that Sanchez isn't one of the best 3 pitchers in the NL. Like you just can't. I'd be very surprised to not see him get first place votes.
And Skeens just hit, I think, his all-time high for innings pitched in a year. And so I think they've been careful with him all season to begin with, but maybe they start skipping him in the rotation or something just to preserve him because the Pirates aren't going anywhere.
Well, and they got rid of everybody like over the last couple of days. So like anybody on that team who was worth a damn, they got rid of. So I don't know if he's going to be racking up wins unless he's throwing complete games. Like they're certainly not going to be scoring a ton of runs. It's so I have to agree there. By the way, there is one that I did bet that I did notice that we took a couple weeks ago. Schwarber's down to 3-1 for home run leader that we took a couple weeks ago, CJ. So that's stuff I like to see. I don't know, CJ, is there any other markets that you'd kind of looked at that involving Mets and Phillies right now? Like, I say this because this time last year, you and I were both like, we always say it, but Mets to make the LCS was such a solid one that we looked at. Is there something that you've kind of seen with the trade deadline with this that you want to do?
I mean, I think I would still look at that like we already talked about this on a previous show, but it's worth bringing up again. Like and I'm trying to see right here on DraftKings if I can find the specific seed for where you can get a team.
That's a good call.
So we both agree, or we all agree, Mets and the Phillies both got better. Like these teams, they're both good teams. They got better. The Dodgers didn't really do anything. I'm still not panicking about the Dodgers in the sense that like you're going to get Snell back and they've got some reinforcements on the way there. But one of those two teams between the Mets and the Phillies is going to obviously not win the division. And at that point, a Phillies 4 seed or a Mets 6 seed to me is still the play if you can find a good price on it, because again, you're going to have one of those two teams. I think they're either going to be in a position where they're going to both be so good that it's kind of like a Braves Mets situation from 2022, where you have one of those teams that ends up just being automatic with a 4 seed. I think the Brewers. Now the Cubs probably, Adam, I think would be the favorite for that since the Brewers have taken over the division lead.
Yeah, it's still close because the Cubs are only like minus 105. Like they're even. And then the same odds for the division.
You just think of that cascading effect there too, is that you've got, okay, if Phillies are the 4, well then that means the Central team is likely going to be the 5 seed, which you're going to get great prices still on, probably even better than what we just took it at Brewers at the 5 seed or Cubs at the 5 seed. So that to me is still the market that I'd be like trying to target, given that the Phillies and Mets are both, I would say like these are your 2 and 3 and the Dodgers in there too, in the top 3 of your teams in the NL. Got to see about the Cubs. I was really hoping that they were going to do something here at the deadline. We talked about it with Scott, but to me just didn't do a lot. So you're really hoping that lineup stays healthy and continues to hit that the way it does. And maybe Soroka gives you something and they're still kind of in that, but I'm not feeling, I guess, as good right now about my Cubs Phillies exactas as I was, say, last week at this time. So that would just be my word of caution. If you're kind of looking to lay some money on the Cubs, I'm not sure right now is the time to do it.
No, I also think that look, we already talked about the time you want to do anything with the Cubs or Brewers. 2 weeks from now, they play each other, and that's the final time they play each other before the end of the season. And that is effectively bet one of those teams for the division, effectively, because after that, like I said, the Brewers don't play anybody who is ahead of them. So if it's the Brewers, it's over. It's really over. If it's the Cubs, the Brewers need a lot of help. This was awesome. Our biggest episode ever. It's great. So Matt, we're going to have you stick around because now we're going to do a thing we call dad moves. And it's really like a nice wrapper around a recommendation or something that you did during the week that you would say it's dad advice. And it's been things like our producer Spencer saying always have big trash bags so that you can get a giant dead bird out of the back of your house. To CJ commenting on pouches, to Nick saying throw away all the diapers in your house, or order your food when you're ordering food for your family at a restaurant, like order it when you get to the restaurant because it maximizes your time away from your kids. So I will go first. I know I've given this one before, but because it is pouring here, I did it again. But you don't necessarily need to buy a bouncy house or an inflatable house for your kids, though they're fun and they're cheap and they're worth it. You get at least a month's worth out of it. But the blow up thing that's for it, it's like basically a power inflator. It also doubles as a really nice way to clean up water in your basement when it rains, and that is what I use it for most of the time. I have it plugged in, so the double usage of the I'll call it the bouncy house air inflator, communications guy. That is really great for if you live in the Northeast and you have a basement. If you live in California, this means nothing to you because you don't have a basement. So, but yeah, that's my dad move of the week. I highly recommend that you pick one up if you live in an area that gets any sort of torrential downpour of rain. So, Matt, you want to go? You can go next as our guest.
So I'll make another restaurant recommendation, and this is not necessarily a dad move, but it is a recommendation to restaurants, and that is with your kids menu, just serve Kraft mac and cheese. Every kid's menu has mac and cheese on it. They always try and make it fancy. They put in the Gouda and the smoked provolone and anything. I would think that's delicious. My kids don't think that's delicious. They just want the blue box of Kraft mac and cheese. When I was in college, I worked my summers at Applebee's. They put them in little pouches. You can do it. It's Kraft mac and cheese. That's how we did it at Applebee's. Huge seller. All the kids would eat. I would be thrilled to pay $10 for a single serving of.
I was going to say, just so look at the margins you're creating. I feel like you should be like on the Fixer with.
This is smart. This is really smart.
Yeah, just put in some Kraft mac and cheese. Make everything just frozen for kids' meals. They don't care. Like it just.
I never understand why there's more things on there that are not hot dogs and mac and cheese. Like there's nothing else.
It needs to be mac and cheese. It needs to be pizza. Mac and cheese, pizza, and chicken fingers. That's it. Like you don't
make your chicken fingers fancy. I don't want real chicken in there. I mean, I want real chicken. My kids do not want real chicken.
I don't even need a sauce. I don't even need anything. They're gonna just have applesauce. That's really then it doesn't even go with it, but they'll do it. CJ, what do you got?
Applesauce, actually, by the way, also that should just be a main item on the kids' menu. It shouldn't be considered like a side. It's just like you get a bowl of applesauce. My daughter would love that. She would go to order that every single restaurant she'd go to. It was just a bowl of applesauce. Mine is just my dad move of the week is hot glue. If your kids get my daughter, she got a Cinderella doll recently, except they have accessories and they keep falling off. And of course, she wants to sleep with this doll, and then she loses the accessories in her crib. So I just got one recommendation: have hot glue in the house, because if your kid gets any sort of like doll, superhero toy, whatever, and there's any sort of accessory that can come off or on that toy and it's small, glue it, because you're going to have to keep playing find the needle in the haystack for these things. They always lose them, and they always find a way to take it off, and then they can't get it back on. So just glue it on. They don't know the difference.
That's smart. My wife did that with the Tonys. She made it, put them in. She got a Lazy Susan and she put glue and magnets on it because the kids kept throwing them everywhere. And then it was like they thought it was magic that basically makes it so that they all stay on there and do that. Matt, thank you again for coming by. You and we didn't even get to talk about it, but you talked about how loud the CBP is going to be. You and I were at Bedlam in the Bank the day after which I got fired from my job. But it was a great situation, and we will be doing that again. That is 100%. We're going to Phillies playoff games this year. I'll probably go to a game at the end of September. But tell people if you want where they can find you, or tell them, do you want to give shouts, anything like that? Do you want to do anything?
Yeah, they can't really find me anywhere besides my basement here. But I guess I'm on X or Twitter or whatever at MB
Pollack. Nazi platform.
Yeah, well, I'm on the Blue Ski too. But I don't really. I just reply to other people. I don't do anything. Yeah. There's not a lot of content there. But I'll say go Phils. Thanks to both of you for having me on here. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude. It was. I mean, as soon as it came through, I'm like, this is the Pollack episode that we got to have. All right. So for CJ, who is at Dad's That Bets, and producer Spencer is at Spencer_Ray Ray. This has been Dad's Bet Baseball. Remember to go to Hall of Fame Bets, HOFapp.com, use code DADS, and handygraphs.com, code HG Dads. And on a awesome day with an hour and 15-minute episode where we got to talk about baseball, which is a dream to me, CJ, what is the final word on this trade deadline episode?
Alpha Epsilon Pi.